Welcome to the Firing Squad Podcast, where four guys talk about blazing hot topics that they discuss when no one else is around. No fluff, no bull. They tell it like it is. And now, here is the squad.
All right, fellas, we are live again.
What's up? This is Ham. Obama has done nothing for black people the whole time this joker's been in office. When he was elected in 2008, I thought it was going to be just the 4 best years of being a black man ever. Then he re-upped, and I thought it was just going to, continue and be just some kind of fairy tale fantasy for black people. In actuality, things have actually gotten worse for black people in terms of racial tension in the United States. And that's a sentiment that I just, voiced for you from a lot of people, and that's how you hear it. And they blame Obama for the racial tension. So what do you guys think about that? That wasn't my voice. I'm just echoing some sentiments, and go.
Oh, man, I was about to get ready to say.
Well, man, June ain't on the line, man.
I think that back in 2008, as a country, we were coming out of we were in a really bad place, some dark times, financially. The country was in a bad place, and the country decided to do something radical and elected Barack Obama the first black president. And he sold, inspiration, hope, a brighter future, get us out of those times. And I think when he came in, a lot of people thought that it was going to start to be the bridge to start to heal some of the race issues that we had in America. But you can't help but look at over this past 8 years and to say that those racial tensions have gotten worse over those 8 years. And it's no fault of Barack or President Obama. It's the fact that those closet racists or those people who always had these feelings but never had a reason to publicly show us them, because they could be who they wanted them to be, because there wasn't anything in the public that would cause them to ever have to show it, because all the public figures they were dealing with were white. So there were never situations where we had to see, the Republicans and other people discuss how they felt about a black person outside of yourself, which of course they're always going to, if they like you or not, they're going to tell you they're your friend, your coworkers or whatnot. So you get this thing where now all of these racial tensions, these comments and stuff, how they talk about the president. So now we identify that, if you're talking about my president like that, you automatically think that way about me too, because he's black, I'm black.
Yeah, and so he has an office, and you're just like a normal citizen. So you definitely think they think that about you,
right? So then now at the end of the day, you get to you fast forward now, and with that, and then you throw in the whole Black Lives Matter movement. You then throw in everything that's happening with the police brutality and that link to Black Lives Matter. And now, go ahead.
And social media and live video. So before we didn't, we heard about it. Now we actually literally get to see it live. So there's no denying it. So you have all of that. And it's kind of like we had a Band-Aid on it. We just refused to talk about it like it didn't exist, because we coexisted. And then when he became president, it's like that little game at an arcade with a little alligator pop up and you got to smash them and you just pop up in different. That's what happened. Like the people started showing their true colors once Obama came into office, and they did everything they can to delegitimize him and obstruct him from doing his job. And then we start seeing the police brutality actually happen like on camera, and then you can't deny it. And then all that just brought about more racial tension. So I don't think he did anything to. Only thing he did was just being a black president. And then people,
Lance, that game you talk about, that game with the alligator where you hit him. What happens what happens the further along you go in that game?
They
start popping up faster and faster. And
it's more
and it's harder to get them. It's more of them popping up at the same time. That's the same thing that happened here. It started out with 1 or 2, and then it just kept going, and it just kept popping up. And then different instances just kept popping up. And then you get to this point where now the divide has happened, and not only do you have, so now you've got the Black Lives Matter, and and the people who are just anti-police brutality. You got that side, who everybody, so from all intents and purposes, are going to assume that's all of the minorities, and a group of non-minorities or whatever in there too. Then you've got the people on the other side that are pro-police,
pro law and order,
pro-law and order. And so those are going to be all of the races and on that side. But then in the middle, you got the moderates, the middle white moderates who are sitting on the fence. And a lot of these racial issues and a lot of these other things, they kind of started to relate to them as well in a different way and started to lean. They actually know, you know what they did? They kind of want to wash their hands from it.
Right. That's why they don't want to say who they voted for.
Listen,
a lot of them don't want to discuss that.
I want to read y'all. This is a text exchange I had with a coworker who he's a Trump supporter. It makes no sense. I always thought he was Eskimo, but I think he's Asian.
I think isn't it Inuit or something?
Yeah.
Inuit.
Inuit. Yeah, he's Inuit. But so he's Asian and another Asian that's biracial. But we were talking about like the difference of why I woke up this morning not thrilled. But anyway, he put, I'm a biracial child. Racism is out there. People will put you down. Works on both sides. Racism only works if you allow it to. If you accept who you are, then it doesn't keep you down.
That's crazy because then that then implies that you can just freely break oppression.
See, that's the thing. That comment was too vague because he has to characterize what keep you down is. He has a point if he's talking about emotionally, but if he's talking about systematic racism and being kept down. No, I mean from the snippet you read. That's what I'm saying.
And this is what I wrote back to him. I wasn't going to engage in a conversation.
But that's the type of but Ham, that's the type of narrow view that some people have.
Just to get over it. They think we can just get over it.
Get over it. Oh, I absolutely understand.
And this is what I told him. I said, I'm not going to talk to you about racism until you can show me a picture of one of your ancestors hanging from a tree not too long ago.
Yeah,
right? And then he put, it was terrible. People should be shot for that, but that's not today. Sports are dominated by blacks, and people still watch. We have a black president.
But
sports.
That type of narrow view.
Slaves were entertainment.
Is often held by the majority. That type of view right there is held by the majority, and especially that moderate population that Christian was just talking about. So, I mean, to me, that's problematic because it's like you're not fully understanding. You're not fully understanding what it is that we mean when we say, racism. And even within sports, there's racism within sports.
And man,
but
it's not even.
And
I'm sorry.
And two, I had this conversation earlier because I was trying to explain to somebody why people would associate anyone who supported Trump as either being a racist or being someone that is who ignores his racist comments and just, he was pretty much trying to argue the fact of Trump being a racist, but he didn't understand why I thought Trump was a racist. And I told him, I said, well, outside of the several discrimination lawsuits that he's had against him in his real estate, I said, for one, he always, whenever he references black people, he references us as living in poverty, living in terrible conditions, in inner cities. And then he looked at me and he was like, well, the inner cities are bad. And I was like, yeah, but I was like, but the black population isn't just the inner city. That's what you don't understand. That's the picture that he paints of black people. He was like, oh, I think you're taking it out of context. And so I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, you just don't get it. And then I'm sitting there, I'm looking at him, and this is a guy who I'm like, man, this is an educated dude. He's a guy who I work with, or I respect his opinion in the workplace, and he doesn't get it. And so I'm like, well, this dude doesn't get it. There is a large amount of people that I think we assume get it and don't.
You assume. Yep.
They're not going to get it. I always say it. And like I said, I said it a couple podcasts ago, well, quite a few now. It's like the John Coffey, part of the Green Mile. Like at that moment when Tom Hanks' character touches, John Coffey, and he can feel and see everything that he went through. They will never see or feel or fully understand what it is that we feel, on a daily basis.
Stop trying to get them to realize it.
They're not going, and you end up beating yourself in the head.
Yep.
And that's really, when you think about it, it's the definition of insanity.
Listen,
but it's not the same thing over and over, trying to get someone to understand something. I mean, well, that's irrational. Like, you don't do that. So, they're not going to understand.
To your point,
they're not going to get it.
This dude goes through everything that you're describing. I'll tell you. So when I was giving him examples of how Trump was racist, he said he has Hispanics and blacks that work for him. Like, I promise you can't make this up. Like, you can't make it up. It's in the text. Like, that's what he said. Like,
But Mike, my thing is that I agree with what you said, but it speaks to a larger perception issue of how, even now, we're still perceived a certain way that's not true. In the eyes of people who you would think, I mean, these are people who aren't even around inner city black people to make a judgment of being, oh, this is the majority of people who have. Majority of people they've had interaction with are people like us. So for them to they're getting their perceptions and messages about black people from other sources than the people that they actually interact with.
Right. No, and I fully understand that. But I'm a believer.
It's just crazy to me that they're still allowing those stereotypes still permeate.
That's because
majority thinking.
That's because they grew up watching The Fresh Prince and they think you're the one that got out. You're an exception to the rule.
Yeah, they think we're.
No, it's like it's literally like The Fresh Prince. Like, they think you're an exception to the rule. Yeah. When they see you, they don't know that you came from a peer group. You have others like you. You're an exception to the rule.
Yeah, that's profound. That's exactly.
Now I'm gonna tell you when they would actually fully understand that is if maybe your place of employment was maybe half. I mean, and even still, they may not. They may still not understand it then.
Exactly. Where are you gonna go somewhere? Where you gonna go somewhere in corporate America that's half?
Yeah. Right. I mean, you're not going to find it. To my point, they're not going to understand that. Like, they're never going to understand that. First of all, so let me backtrack and further explain the fact that I personally believe some of that stuff is inherent. You go back hundreds of years, people always say, "Well, black people have to just get over it." Blah 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 blah. They have to get over it. That happened years ago. Well, white people have to get over the fact that they were in a quote unquote master position. So the mentality is still there, even though they don't want to acknowledge that. So
I think that's one of the big things. I still think they think that's inferior.
Right. That's exactly what it is.
And one of the big things from this election that this election has brought out of me is just that realization of, one, there's so many that still don't get it, and two, now I'm to the point, Mike, where they're not going to get it. I'm like, if you haven't gotten it now, it's just, and I think that I always thought that we were still making progress.
Oh yeah, you missed.
I think that's what it was. I thought we were always.
You were drinking that Obama hope.
even though it was slow, I thought we were making progress.
Oh,
I didn't
hell
think
no.
things were
It was just
moving.
getting comfortable. It was just getting comfortable with the whole
Right.
politically correct stuff.
Right.
Because, you know, being politically correct